Well, good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Brimhall here. I do hear a little noise in the background, so I'm not quite sure where that's coming from. Hopefully, we can clear that up real quick. Again, I have Dr. Patrick K. Porter with me tonight. He's a PhD, and I've got a feeling you all know who he is. There was over 100 people on here tonight wanting to hear what he has to say. Now, homecoming this year, we always say it every year, we do a better job. We have better people and better speakers, and we change more lives every year. And there's just no way we've ever come close to what we had this year with Dr. Harris and his photographic memory, and Dr. Porter with his entire research and the life he has spent in the emotional side of our triangle. We have a six-sided triangle, and where emotions is that part, and he has been an incredible addition to the 6 steps to wellness in the emotional area. We have a whole new protocol we'll demonstrate next year at homecoming, how we're using the PEMF to do brain reset along with the brain tap that Dr. Porter's doing. So I'm going to turn it over to him and just let him run with it. He's going to tell us at the end, and we'll probably have some time for questions of how you get hooked up with this and start doing it. Mine sits right by my bed. I like to open the day and close the day with his brain tap, and then I go up on my PEMF and do release up there. So my goal at 71 is to get back to about 45. So I'm going as far and fast as I can. I still have my hair, so I'm one step ahead of Dr. Porter. He's handsomer and bigger, but Dr. Porter, run with it.
Thank you, Dr. John, and welcome everybody on the call. Today we're going to talk about light, sound, and how it affects the genetics of the body, and how the brain and body in the acupuncture system, the ley lines of the body, how the energy moves the body. So I'm going to share with you some of my findings, and then, like you said, we'll have some questions at the end. First of all, most of you understand that stress is affecting us in one way or another, but there's this thing called telomeres. And when our brain gets stressed, we really do believe that all stress is brain stress, because you can put someone who has certain attributes in a stressful situation that might cripple someone, they thrive through it. So, that's why we have special forces, is certain people have this mindset. Now, that special force brain that works in the battlefield won't work at home. That's why we have something called PTSD. And what we want to show here, of course, with your DNA is when you're under stress, clinically now they've proven that these telomeres actually will shorten the more stress you have. So what that means is these telomeres are now a sign that scientists can look at, and if they're shrinking or they're shortened, it's almost like that's our fuse. And when those telomeres are gone, our life is gone, because the telomeres hold the information that tells our genes how to reproduce. And at a certain point, for most of us, it happened at around 26, 27, we stopped, looking as good or maybe as have our physical strength, because at that point we hit a point of no return where our bodies are basically aging at a rate faster than we can recover. And that's what the science is all about right now, is how can we slow down this process? I don't know if we'll ever stop it completely, but who knows, if we could tap into this DNA structure and the genetics of our body, all things are possible. So when these chromosomes, this component, it's associated with aging and risk of heart disease, they will know right now, if they could look at it, they could give you, if you have a propensity. Now, one of the things I'm going to tell you right now is that you also have this brain we have, this 100 billion neurobit processor. It can turn on or off these gene expressions. In fact, they now know that through meditation, relaxation techniques alone, you can change over 2,300 gene expressions. So that means as you start thinking positively, they know that you're going to turn on the gene expression for health and harmony and vitality. When you're thinking negatively or not thinking positive, maybe somebody has the stress that's happened, they've had an accident or something like that, their brain is literally going to create the neurochemicals that are going to cause rapid aging and cause our body to decay and actually begin to destroy itself. So when we talk about this, also, they do know now that what's happening to you right now, because our genes our body is a vibrating machine. It's not solid in any form. Actually, there's more space in our body than there is. If we were to look out into space, there's more solidness in the stars in the sky than there is solidness in our body. So when you look at our body, it appears to be stable and physical, and we can't move through it. But the reality is it's vibrating and pulsating and teeming with life, and it's sending signals. And they now know that these signals, for instance, if you were to get help and to de-stress yourself and learn how to handle your stress and do different things, they now know, at least in rats, and I think that we're more involved in them, that they can change the gene expression of their offspring even after they've been born. So that means that you're sending signals to your kids, and your grandparents are have sent signals to you, and they're turning off and on our gene expression. That's how our body knows to have the gene expression it has. So these studies have shown us that this impact that our genetics have is mostly our environmental factors more than it is our family history, though. So when you think about, most of you on this call are into health and vitality, but the masses out there, 80% of the people that you see out there in the world, they don't realize that what they put into their body soon has to be the building blocks of their bodies, and they sit and watch television, or they watch game shows, or whatever they spend their time doing. They get programmed to think incorrect thoughts, let's say. All of that goes into changing the way our genes express itself. And the reason I bring that up here is that when you're watching television, most people don't realize it, but your television is actually a 10 cycle or an alpha programmer, which means it's putting the person into an alpha state, which is a highly suggestible state. They're beaming light into our bodies because your eyes are open, you're looking at the screen, it's flashing. So it's changing, it's altering our brainwave activity, and it's actually altering our genetics in a way that most of the time isn't positive. Now, of course, with the television, just like a gun, you can use it to go out and go hunting and help feed your family, or you can use it for bad, or you can use it to defend yourself. So it's just a tool. So I recommend you use it only as a tool for good, of course. So the main thing here is that stress in what you do for yourself today is going to help your family. In fact, they say 7 generations to either turn on or off gene expression. So when you wonder, some people go, well, my family has depression in their family history. There is no such thing as having depression in your family history, but there is the capacity of the brain to send a signal down through your genetic code to turn off maybe the ability to produce serotonin, GABA, all of the different brainwave frequencies you need to change and upregulate these neurotransmitters. And of course, the side effect of that is that you'll be depressed. Now, you can also have, if somebody says, my family's go-getters, they're always out there. If you ever wonder why some families seem to have just have the get up and go, that's because they're expressing it as a family unit. The people you hang around with, in fact, they say you are the sum total of the 5 people that you are closest with. And there's some reality to that now. They're proving through genetic programming or genetic tracking that those people are helping you to turn on and off your gene expression just by the people you communicate with, the air that you breathe with. This happens, most of you know about methylation and how that works. So this is how the enzymes respond to your environment. So our bodies are very adaptable, but there's certain things that have happened in our lifetime that have never happened in the history of humankind. Right now, what's happened to us since the 1970s, for instance, or if you go back even to the 60s, we are bombarded with more electronic smog and different things that are turning our genes on and off. Now, eventually, these bodies will adapt, and we could handle anything that happens to it because our bodies are very adaptable and changing. But because we're being bombarded so quickly, it's causing some people, their bodies down-regulate, and they then produce genetic problems or depression or sadness, like seasonal affective disorder and things of that nature. So this all happens because of this chemical reaction that happens, at the cellular level. So, and we can change that by doing something about our stress, and that's really what we're here to talk about. Now, some of you might have heard me talk about zebras before, but there's a really great book out that talks about why zebras don't have ulcers. And the reason I bring that up is the difference between us and animals like a zebra. For instance, I couldn't imagine getting up every morning, and every morning I have to be at least the second slowest, because if you're the slowest in the zebra tribe, you're the one that the lion's going to go after. So every day I get up and I don't know if tomorrow I'm going to be alive. I could be somebody's dinner. But what happens if you watch zebras in the wild, and this happens with other animals as well, they're being chased 1 minute, but then the lion only has a certain amount of stamina. They get tired, they go back under the tree to rest. The zebra knows they're safe. They instantly change their physiology. They forget about the lion chasing them for that moment. their body down regulates, they relax, and they eat the grass. Well, the difference is that as humans, what we do is very different. We take our situation and we internalize it. In fact, some people actually go to meetings about it and they brag about it. And you probably have patients that come in, and the first thing they want to tell you is about all of their different conditions. And it's almost like they're wearing a badge of honor. And they don't realize that as you support these conditions, you're actually bringing them back into reality. They call it revivification in psychology, which means we're bringing it back to life. So, and they do that in the mind because your brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So instead of, if a zebra was to do this, they would never be able to eat because they would always be in sympathetic overload. Their body would never digest and rest and recover. They'd have very short lifespans. They would have to go to meetings. They would be nervous all the time. But what happens with us psychologically is our bodies start to manifest that what we think about all day long. So what we think about, we literally bring about in our physical body by the thoughts we think. So it's our reaction to situations, not the situation itself, that causes the stress. So what we're going to talk about today is how we can use technology to change your reaction and thereby changing the stress, because our bodies can adapt and we can use technology to do that. And there's technology out there. We could have included in this talk today PEMF, which some of you probably have, which is a great technology that can also do a lot of the things that I'm talking about. So everything I'm going to talk about here, you could also put into that category, PEMF, which we use at our clinic all the time. So when we talk about it, this is the way people used to meditate, right? It's difficult. You have to get in the full lotus. You have to learn to breathe. You have to do all those things. So those that don't know what I do and how I do it, we do it this way. We relax on, this is actually one of our vibroacoustic beds. We're listening to the brain tap. We have our brain light on, feeding our brain light, which we're going to talk about in a little bit so you can understand that. We have our inflammation buster on the gut. So we have that gut brain access going. We're feeding the body the most under-prescribed nutrient on earth. That is light. And we're also feeding it not just light alone, we're feeding it with vibration and frequency, so that 99.9% space that's in our body, which really thrives on information. It's what shows up when if we can show up consciously or we can show up unconsciously. Most people show up unconsciously, they don't show up on purpose. But as you start to think about the proper thoughts, the proper action, the proper nutrition, then what happens is you start to do things that are going to affect the way that your genes respond. And here's a picture with one of our teachers at Quantum University. I teach, I'm the head of brain-based wellness at Quantum University of Hawaii, and Bruce Lipton's one of our teachers. So if you haven't read any of his books, I do recommend that you read those, because what I'm talking about, it's a little bit different than what he's talking about, but he's right in line with what we're saying, that when he wrote his book, they didn't know as much about how the genes, how our thoughts affect our genes, how technology affects our genes. He could probably do a full rewrite of the biology of belief, and he'd be right on, because he was ahead of his time telling people about this. He was a cell biologist, and our cells have a life of their own. So how do we communicate with these cells to get them to turn on the right gene expression for health and vitality? Or as Dr. John's saying, so that he continues to keep his hair. I just outgrew my hair. So that's kind of what happens sometimes. So when we talk about this right now, most of the magazines you see at some point or another during their, these are respectable magazines, not just all the ones you see at the checkout line, but the Scientific America, mindfulness magazines, they're all proving that meditation rewires the brain and changes gene expression. I think I said it earlier, 2,300 gene expressions can be changed just by the fact of using proper relaxation techniques, and that would be included in brain tapping, meditation, prayer, using the PEMF. All of those things are changing because the stress on our body prevents. It's virtually impossible. I mean, it is impossible when you're in high sympathetic to produce healing in the body. So for those of you, of course, that are chiropractors on the line, you realize that when you do your adjustments, you're triggering the parasympathetic system and you're putting them into the healing, the rest, relax, and recovery. So that works there. But then now we know, because D.D. Palmer even wrote about it, when you get an adjustment by him, you would actually relax on a table for an hour before you'd leave his building. So they don't just let them jump up and leave, because they know that at the moment after the adjustment, they have the most neuroplasticity available, because you just hard reset them. So think about it like a computer. You just hard reset the nervous system. Now with the right technology like PEMF, light technology, we're talking about the different things we're going to talk about here on this call. All of those things are helping the brain. Now that the brain is firing together, it will begin to wire together. And that wiring process will continue long after the adjustment, and help them to reclaim the health that their body knows it can enjoy. The body knows, that's what the innate is telling it. It just needs the right conditions to be present. So as these things happen, when we talk about epigenetics, that means beyond the genetic structure. We know that this shows, the science is showing now, that only 20% of your gene expression is from your family history. So you can't blame it on mom or dad, brother, sister, whoever. They're just 20% of the expression. The food you eat, the thoughts you think, the activities you take part in, these all go into your gene expression. Your body is constantly adapting. Your nervous system is constantly adapting to its environment. And in that constant adaptation, that constant change in your environment is either helping you to get healthy, it's taking you toward health and vitality, or it's taking you away from health and vitality back to, destruction. So we need to find that, if you will, that 0 point between the two that allows your body to stay in harmony with its environment. And there's a lot of technologies out there that can help you do that. We're going to talk about some today. Now, Dr. Oz, who's become a very good friend of mine over the last 4 years, we do a lot of work with him. In fact, we're going to be at his house this weekend, and we're talking to him because he's a firm believer in energy medicine, right? One of my favorite quotes of his is, the next big frontier is energy medicine. That includes PEMF, light technology, lasers, all of these things, vibratory frequencies. There's a lot of ways to do that through sound or through different technologies. So the science is now out there. It's now irrefutable. You're changing people. We're energy beings. Think of it, you have 75 trillion cells. They're all energy, and they're all communicating. And if those mitochondria, let's say the furnace of the engine, isn't functioning properly, it can't turn on and give the communication or the education to the cell next to it. So that's where dis-ease starts. So we need to get the body working in a very at ease and in health and vitality. So this is why we're going to talk a little bit about auricular therapy. At BrainTap, for those of you that have it or have seen it, we have lights in the ears. People ask us, why do we have lights in our ears? Well, I'm going to go over that a little bit, but just so you know, the blue light that we have is there because it's been a proven fact that when you have blue light, it cancels out EMF. That's the negative, the destructive energy that comes from the lights or from the buildings and from the electric wires. And we put blue in the ears because if you have an EMF machine, you're going to see that the BrainTap has 0 EMF. It's a null point. So it doesn't give you any, it doesn't take any away. It's basically balanced. And we did that through the use of the blue light. But there's other reasons for that we're going to talk about too. But that was one of the main reasons. So when we talk about this was designed by somebody by the name of Dr. Paul Niger, and he's the discovery of auricular therapy. Now, if you think it's a lot like acupuncture, it is. But what he did is he found that you could put these 7 different frequencies into the body at different parts of the ear, and it would trigger different harmonic responses in the body. Our body is not just, it's 75 trillion cells of vibrating energy in a certain field of energy. And when wherever you are with your energy field or your body, it's going to match that energy field. To give you an example, if we were to go to the ocean and we were all to sit on the beach, most people find that they sleep better at the beach. Well, that's because the beach itself and the ocean is resonating at a frequency of about 10 hertz frequency. That happens to be alpha. Well, there's different frequencies all over the planet. If we were to go into the middle of a city that's busy, we'd be operating at about 18 cycles per second. That's high beta, fear, frustration, anxiety. That's why some people feel more at peace outside of the city than they do in the city. Some people can't even handle it. So we're going to do the relaxing frequencies. We're going to put them in through light. Now, we put it in through the eyes and the ears, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So the trigger points in the ears, which we're going to talk a little bit about, is very important because just like the rest of your body is a hologram, if you will. You could look at your hand, and there's parts of your hands that reflect to That's why in the bottom of your feet that do reflexology. So you get, if you press in certain parts of your body, if you feel pain, you probably have an issue with that organ or that gland or wherever that responding part is. The same is true with your ears. And we use light to go ahead and trigger those systems. And when we put light into the ears, the blood flows through each ear every 3 to 4 minutes. So that means we're using something called photobiomodulation. Now, what this light is doing and why it changes the genetic code is this light is being absorbed into the body through this photobiomodulation. It circulates through the bloodstream. When it comes across a cell that's not operating correctly, the mitochondria is not turned on, that cell literally borrows a photon. It absorbs that photon into the core of that cell. It then starts the Krebs cycle or kicks that cell on. So think about it like jump starting an engine. It just jump started the engine of that cell. Now, and it did it with a frequency of 194 hertz frequency or one of the other Nogier frequencies. And when it absorbed it, it re-instructed that cell to go back to its healthy, normal function. Once that happens, that cell doesn't turn off again, especially if the person does the things that are necessary, like gets the rest, the relaxation, the proper nutrition, the adjustments they need, and things of that nature. So when they get this response, we can actually, because of the science right now, we can have you wear a piece of equipment like the NeuroInfinity or our data pulse analysis, or we can use the Muse or any of these other neurofeedback devices, and we can actually record a very strong response in the brain. This response causes them to first have the sympathetic response, but then have a parasympathetic response. So we're basically exercising the brain. Think about it like going to the gym. Now, why light and healing? Well, there's something called ATP. And what this ATP, think of it like currency for the body. And when the body absorbs this light as it's circulating through the body and it finds the cell that needs to be replaced, it's going to be there for energy function of the body. We live in an energy exchange universe right now. So, people are feeling down and because they're eating dead devitalized foods, they're drinking sodas or they're drinking beer, whatever the source is, they're not drinking the water that they need. So what happens is when you bring this light into the body, it starts to turn back on the natural function of the cell. And that energy causes a regeneration to occur and repair. Now, if you don't have ATP in the system, because your body has gone dark, because you're eating dead foods or you're not healthy, you've had damage, you've gotten an accident, whether it's a trauma toxin or a thought, it's going to shut down the body. This light literally turns back on that function in the body. Once the body's turned back on, then innate intelligence can take over and do the work that needs to be done. And it's all done automatically. The person doesn't have to do anything but be present for it to happen. So when we talk about auricular therapy, and Dr. Nogier, and we talk about these auricular points, for those of you that do auricular therapy, you can use things like ultrasound, you can use laser, you can use finger pressure, you can use microcurrent, you can use LED lights. Now what we do is, if you do any of these kind of therapies, it's perfect. You do that first, just like you would do an adjustment. But then once you put the BrainTap headset on, we're going to run light through those channels of energy. So some people will actually feel a warmth in the ears when they first start using our BrainTap, and they say, what's going on? This is burning my ears. Well, there's not enough light there to burn your ears, but what it is the energy is backing up because there's blockages in these meridian points. But as soon as you use our BrainTap for a certain number of sessions, you're going to work that through. Now, the light from an LED and the light from a laser are very similar. Light is light. The difference is that a laser is coherent light, and usually you can only hold it on an area for a certain period of time. The lights we use, you can basically wear them all day long, and it wouldn't give you enough light dosage to burn your skin. So they're very safe in order to use that. So when you think about this, in all these auriculotherapy charts and all the different areas, you could go in here and hit every little place that there is to hit. You could pinpoint if somebody has a problem in their body, and you could pinpoint it on the map. But what's nice is this micro system that we have here, the outer ear, when we bathe it with light, literally all of these channels are opening up. So think about it like laser light is working like a needle on all these areas to open up the meridians and bring balance back into the system. And with this, what happens is when you're doing that with blood flow and circulation increasing through photobiomodulation, you're bringing nutrients to the nerves. And those nutrients are healing the nerves. And that light is also causing something called nitric oxide to happen. So when you bring it in through the ears, it's also going to get into the brain. And as the brain connection, our ears are to bring us information from our outer world, just like our eyes do. So we're using the central pathways to our brain. We're opening those up. We're literally cleaning them out, if you will, kind of like dental floss for the bloodstream and for the nervous system. We're getting it back online. So once those connections are made, they get stronger and healthier because they're getting the nutrients that they need. And then again, the number one nutrient that they're not getting isn't something they get off the shelf. It's something called light. We don't function very well without light. And in today's world, we need to provide that light, and that's where the brain tap comes in. So these photons, remember, are going into the body. They're being absorbed into the bloodstream. They're circulating through the body. And when those photons come in contact with a cell that it's needing, think of it as a negative charge, and the photon's a positive charge. They exchange places, and the photon causes that cell to return back to healthy function and re-instructs the genetic code to return back to health and vitality. They call this low-level light therapy. And that's what we're really talking about here, is how do we use all of this together with vibration? So it's not just light itself, it's also what is the frequency of light that's being used. And we typically use the 3 different wavelengths of frequency, the 812, which is an infrared. We use red, which is usually 633, and we use blue, which is 533, around there. It depends on how they're tuned. But each of those frequencies of light are also pulsating at different Auger frequencies. So they might appear to be solid, but they're actually flickering at a very high rate. Just like when you watch a movie and you think it's moving, it's actually, hundreds of still frames just moving at 33 frames per minute or per second. So you see it as a movie. So when we think about the brain tap and what it does, and we're feeding this light in, remember, we don't know exactly where those meridian points are or where those trigger points are on every ear that uses our equipment. So we're going to bathe the ear with that. 9 LEDs in a 20-minute dose is equivalent to a dose of laser. So we're talking about a light dose now. The body absorbs only so much. After 20 minutes, the body typically will not be able to absorb any more photons. So doing it more than that doesn't help anymore. It's just a matter of being comfortable. So most of our sessions are between 20 and 23 minutes in length. And that's about enough time to really give your body the dose of light that it needs to open up these meridian points and start the flow of health back into those systems, and which is every system of the body. So we want to work kind of gestaltish here, where we're going to work on the whole system. Now, that's where you come in as a practitioner. When you know they need something specific, you're going to go in and work on that specific area. And then at the end of that specific training session, you would put them on the brain tap to get the brain to, again, continue to fire and then wire around that transformation. If not, the thought, the trauma, and the toxin is going to try to repeat itself, because those traumas or those toxins or those thoughts are going to try to create dominance in that area. So it's very much like I said, like foot reflexology or hand reflexology. Your body is a hologram, and so it keeps repeating itself. So you could use, if you had light pads, or this is why the PMF works so well. When you're using the PMF, you're getting your whole body and you're getting this resonant frequency. They've actually done live blood cell analysis where they show the blood and how it changes. I don't have a slide for that, but we could see that. Now, this was another good friend of mine. Unfortunately, he passed away now, but Dr. Emoto wrote a book called The Secret Life of Water. When we talk about that we're all frequencies, vibration, and DNA is the antenna, what we're saying is our bodies are made up of 70% or more liquid, and hopefully it's water. So that means that we can change that. If you haven't read the book, The Secret Life of Water, you'll understand why it's so important that you really can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. He did studies where he showed when somebody had healthy thoughts, positive thoughts, and they thought about it with a glass of water, then they froze it, they made these beautiful crystals. And if they were angry and upset, or maybe they used even profanity with the water made these ice spirals that were just almost demonic looking, that there was something about that. So the water shapes itself. So not only are our thoughts, the thoughts we think are not just changing our brain chemistry, they're changing our whole physiology. They're changing the way that our body works. When the Buddha over 5,000 years ago said, "He who angers you conquers you," he was literally saying what medical science knows now, that when you think a negative thought about any person or anyone, you are literally destroying yourself from the inside out. When Jesus, 2,000 years ago said, "Love your enemy," what he was saying was preserve yourself, because when you send loving energy through your body, anything that happens to you must happen through you. So that loving energy is actually healing from the inside out. So, we always said, never let anybody control your weather, is what we used to say. So when you think about it, we can't control the weather, but we can control the way we think about the weather. If it's raining, it could be a great thunderstorm that we like to listen to. If it's sunny, we could go to the beach. So it's all of the way we change our thinking, and that changes the response of this DNA and this antenna. It changes the way our body structures health or structures our demise. All of this plays a role in how this all works. So as I was saying, it complements other therapies. So each time that they wear it, it's going to help with if they have chronic muscle pain, migraine headaches, tension headaches. When our technology was first developed back in the early 80s, we actually developed it. We didn't have everything we have today, but it was developed for pain clinics. So just like we found out at American Pain and Wellness out of Plano, Texas, even when people couldn't take pain medicine, after 10 weeks of using the brain tap, over 90% of them could control their pain with just their mind, because they turned on their body's own healing mechanism. Your brain is able to create, if you will, over 30,000 different neurochemicals, but they need to be triggered at the right vibratory frequency and the right rate and the right speed. So that's what we're doing with the brain tap, is we're teaching your brain to do what it was designed to do. It was designed to keep your body as healthy as possible, given the food you consume and the thoughts you think and the people you hang around. So again, when people are laying on our bed and relaxing, we find that when people are enjoying their brain tap every day, they find that their stress is improved, their sleep's improved, they've improved their receptivity, their memory's gotten better, their learning's improved. And the big thing is, just like Dr. John was saying at the beginning of the webinar tonight, is that he uses it in the morning. We have sessions we call digital coffee. And what that is really is we're training the brain through brainwave entrainment to pick up the SMR frequency, which is a sensory motor rhythm frequency that as a kid you had naturally and would make you maybe even hyperactive. But as we get older, that brainwave tends to diminish and doesn't get used because of stress. And so we wake that up. And then at night, when some people are feeling high stress or their body might need to be rebooted so it can sleep better, we're going to teach the brain to go through a cycle of sleep and leave them in delta sleep, because the key to really brain health is deep sleep. And no matter how long you sleep, if you could get an hour to an hour and a half of deep delta sleep, you're going to reboot your body. There's something called delta burst that happened in the deepest realms of sleep. And that deep delta sleep is really what's healing the body. And this was all explained in American Scientific here in March 2016. They had a whole article about it, that sleep is this fountain of youth, and that we have this internal plumbing system, that if we don't reach this deep level of sleep, we don't detoxify the body. They call it level 4 sleep. And this is a time when we have what's called sleep paralysis. So if you've ever woke up at night and you couldn't move your body and you experienced it, most people will occasionally experience sleep paralysis. You literally woke up in the middle of a brain reboot and cleanse. So think about it like the factory has to shut down so they can clean out the tanks. Your body had to shut down so that all of the brain's connections, those dendrite connections and the nervous system, could open up and detox the body, because the brain is very protective, right? So if we don't stop all the movement of the body, let the brain detox, then it's never going to get a chance to really clean. And that's where brain fog comes in, lack of memory and concentration. So deep sleep is a key here. And one of the natural side effects of really using this kind of technology is that your sleeping patterns return to what's natural and normal for you. Now, when we talk about brain waves, you can just look at this chart here. There's 4 primary brain waves we're going to talk about, but there's a 5th brain wave we don't list here. It's called gamma. Even though we're not training the brain to go into gamma because it's such a high frequency, we know that when these 4 brain waves are now working in harmony, you create more gamma. Now, the reason that that's important is that's the brainwave frequency that breaks down amyloid plaque. So for those of you that are afraid of losing your memories as you get older, the key is to keep the brain functioning and working, to have about 45% beta activity going when you're awake. This is so you can stay alert, stress-free, anxiety-free. You have about anywhere between 25 to 30% alpha. This is for daydreaming and creativity and solving problems. And you have about 10 to maybe 15% theta going on. This is the deep rejuvenation and replenishment. And then you should only have a little bit of delta going on when you're awake during the amount of your day. But when we do what we call data pulse analysis with people to evaluate their brains, either at a trade show or at our clinic, we find that over 75% of the people that we test are over 60% of their brain waves are operating in delta. That means they've either had traumatic brain injuries, or they have a lot of inflammation in their body, or they're just plain stressed out and ready for a burnout. So we need to retrain our brains so that they operate in this balanced brainwave where we have all 4 of these going, but in the right ratio. Now, why is that important? Well, first of all, beta produces dopamine. So when you think about these neurotransmitters, the brain doesn't make these neurotransmitters. 90% of them are made in your gut, but your brain has to instruct your gut. So if you're in fight or flight, stressed out, your gut can't operate right. That means that you can't make these neurotransmitters. So you can take a supplement to do it and they'll work for you short term, but your brain, remember, is this great pharmacy. And if we can get the pharmacy of the brain doing it for you, you don't have to do so much. Alpha represents that part of the brain when you're in an alpha brainwave that creates acetylcholine. This has to do with creativity and focus and problem solving and things of that nature. And so many people have this high dopamine and high serotonin response that their brain isn't regulating right. The brain is meant to flush through these. So think of it as a cycle. As the brain goes through these different cycles throughout the day, it's providing you the right neurotransmitters you need during the daytime activities. When you activate theta waves by doing either something like the PMF, the brain tap, or any other therapy that's going to trigger theta brain waves, you're producing GABA. This is going to help them to feel good, euphoric feelings, deep relaxation. And then delta waves, they produce the serotonin. So when you overproduce delta, though, when you have too much serotonin, what happens is the serotonin isn't, if you want to call it fresh serotonin, it's too much, and the brain can't use that much. So that's what happens when people have too much delta going on. They have too much serotonin, and then unfortunately most of the psychological world gives them a serotonin uptake inhibitor, which means it's going to hold the serotonin in the brain, which is probably what they don't need. What they need to do is flush it out so they can get new serotonin in that's actually vibrant, alive, and willing to work. So think of it like fruit. It's best when it's picked closest to the tree, and ripe and ready to be used. So when we talk about the science of brain tapping, first of all, we use something called strategic mind messaging. This is so we can instruct the brain. We always tell our clients and patients that your best thinking brought you here, but we need to upgrade that thinking, just like you have to upgrade your computer from time to time. Then we're going to use something called binaural beats, which is a way to balance out the brain by putting in one signal in one ear, like a 200 hertz frequency, and a 210 in the other ear. And the brain literally hears 10 hertz frequency. That's alpha. Now, what we've done is we have a proprietary system that actually guides the brain from, let's say, 18 cycles per second down to 4, and then back and forth along that pathway to really create the transmission so the brain starts to produce those neurotransmitters, and it creates it in a balanced way. Now, because not everyone can hear perfectly, we've also encoded our sessions with isochronic tones. This message and these tones are setting up the vibratory frequency that's going to make your body most receptive to start to turn on or turn off those gene expressions so that you can get rid of the pinned up stress that's housed in your body, that's trapped in your body. And then we're going to introduce light therapy. And what the light therapy, again, is going to do, it's going to drive the photons into the body that are going to re-instruct the mitochondria to turn back on, especially in the brain, because we need to get the brain back online. And we're going to do it through the lights in the visor and through auricular therapy through the ears. Now, all of this is happening all at one time when somebody's doing a brain tapping session. And that immediately when that happens, your body responds with what's called the relaxation response. There's the fight or flight, and there's the freeze response, but there's also the relaxation response. That means that you can relax into the situation and have your best self show up so that you can make the best decisions and take the best actions possible for you. Now, one of the studies we did with blue light, because some people are afraid of blue light, but the reality is they're talking about blue light that's below the level that we use in our brain tap. They're talking about blue light in the range of 470 to 490. We use 533, which is a healing light, and it triggers gamma. So what we did when we went to MIT is they had a program where people would sit in a blue light room and get exposed to this blue light, and they were getting about 6% gamma improvement. What we showed is that we get 23% gamma improvement and 23% improvement of the nervous system. So, and we find that for those of you that are chiropractors on the line here, we find that it can go up as much as 15% when you do a chiropractic adjustment first, because you've now made the alignment possible. Now those neurons that are firing together begin to wire together around the perfect alignment of the spine. And that's when some real magic happens in the body. And we can measure that through our data pulse analysis. Now, what happens chemically to the body when all this is going on? First of all, 11% increase in norepinephrine levels. This means that they're going to start to eliminate pain in their bodies. They're going to have serotonin levels increased by 21%. Now, the nice thing about your body and your natural serotonin levels and endorphin levels, you can never overproduce them in your brain. You will flush them out and rid them from your body. And this was all done through photostimulated wave synchronization by Dr. Norm Shealy. So as you think about how the body responds, your body is always responding to its environment. The science is called frequency following response. Whether it is PEMF, whether it is light therapy, laser, low-level light therapy, whatever it is, your body is going to respond to it. It's the response of the body. So we want a healing response. And when you can measure it in these different levels, you know there's something positive happening in the body. So what is brain tapping? First of all, for those that didn't come to the homecoming at the Brimhalls, or if you haven't seen us at any of the events, then you can see the picture over here. People are relaxing back. Sometimes they're in a zero gravity chair. Sometimes they're in a vibroacoustic lounge. Their eyes are closed. It's training their brain. And we have over 800 different sessions that people can listen to. And we have 27 different business models. So if you're doing something out there and you want to really enhance it and make it work even better than before, then we have something that can add a uniqueness to your practice. Now, some people use it where they just make it a part of their practice, and after every adjustment, they get a brain tap session. But then they also sell programs, which means that they will sell a program for weight loss or stop smoking or stress reduction or pain control. Again, there's actually over 43 different specific programs, but we found that there's about 23 that people really use in a practice. The others are used at home. Now, when you monetize this, the nice thing is once you have the brain tap in your practice, all the money you make from it is yours. So it's something that you can use every day. It's something that your your CA will be able to do for you. It doesn't take any effort on the doctor's part to do this. Usually it's all ran by someone else in the office. And so they put them on, they start to do the program. And while they're doing that program, real positive things happen. So when you look here this is one of our data pulse analysis screens. And when we do this, like for weight loss, for instance, you can see here, this talks about energy resources, 140. And then we were able to boost it up to 246 in one session. So their neurohormonal regulation went from 51% up to 67%. This means they're burning fat. So they were burning fat here a little bit, but now they supercharge their system and they're really burning fat at that level. So there's different ways we can provide evidence that this is really happening. But the biggest one is that most of our people tell us that they're sleeping better at night, even if they don't listen to it right before bed, because we've reset the brain and the body, so the brain and body is communicating. And that's really the key to health, is getting that heart rate coherency, which means your heart and your brain are communicating appropriately. And this is one of our guys, Rob Powell. We were in People magazine talking about our weight loss program. And for those of you using the supplementation that I know they had, like Brimhall Wellness, you'd even get better results in this, because Rob Powell did this with no supplementation. But we know if we could provide him the right protein and the right supplements, which he is doing now, because he's still someone that we communicate with. This was taken in 2006, and he's still thin. He's still a friend of mine on Facebook. And he does a protein shake every morning now. He does his power shake. He does his nutritional supplements because he wants to stay healthy. So you can get really good results. The problem that most people have with a weight loss program is that they lose the weight, but they keep their fat mind. So the key thing here, and that's part of the genetic re-encoding, rebranding of the genetic memory, that he doesn't have to have the same genetic problems that his parents had. He could change those. And Rob is just one example of that. This is a study we did with the vets at the Kansas City University of Kansas. We did a PTSD study to show that we could prove to them that we could get them sleeping better. And that all ties into all of our other visualizations and what we have here, the 43 different categories. We have something for everyone, and we're going to give you the opportunity, if you want. If you haven't tried it yet, then you'll be able to go to the link that we're going to provide Dr. John and sign up for free to try out the app. You can also obviously call Dr. John's office and get some information about that as well. And then if you want to start today by learning more about this technology, if you just text Brimhall to 925-278-6787, then you get a copy of my book, The Thrive in Overdrive, which goes over a lot of what we covered today, but in a lot more detail. A lot of the research is in that book. You can read that, learn a little bit more about what we're talking about here, and just start to educate yourself about what happens with stress in the body and how we can overcome that. We all live in a lifestyle where we're going in overdrive, as the book cover says, and we need to learn how to really modulate and get the body to work in health. And for those of you that feel so inclined, you can text the Brain Tap from 480-360-4303, and you can tell us a little bit about what you thought about the talk tonight. So, Dr. John, I'm going to turn it over to you. Or if there's some questions I can answer, just let me know, and I'll stick around till we're done here.
Sounds wonderful. Clark, how are they going to communicate to ask those questions? Oops, we lost him there just for a minute. So sometimes he usually goes ahead and you can text the question. There's a place in there he can relay to them. And it may not be possible. We'll see if he comes back to us here in a second. I was taking notes like crazy here. I'm telling you, if you missed homecoming, there's salvation for you, because we videotaped the class that went on there, whether it was Dr. Porter, myself, or Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris did 3 different classes with his photographic memory. And you can just call my office at 480-964-5198. That's 480-964-5198. And you can get those and listen to them. We will make this. We recorded this tonight. This will be coming out to you within the next few days. All of you who signed up. Plus, we'll have it on our puzzle pieces. Now, hopefully, you read the puzzle pieces every week, because we talk about Brain Tap. We talk about PEMF. We talk about digest or die. We talk about detox or die. Every week, we're going over some of the British research out there. And Dr. Porter talked about telomeres. Now, the unique part about me is I am a certified acupuncturist. I have trained under Noget's people and done auricular therapy, I was the one really that introduced in a massive way by the seminars laser to the chiropractic profession. I'm the one who introduced the percussor. Talk about vibration. This is body vibrations, like the jackhammer of the body. So I have kept up on all this in my 47 years of practice. And Dr. Brett told me Dr. Porter years ago, and I wish we'd got involved sooner, because he just epitomizes everything that we've been striving to do. And it's important, like he says, nutrition is so critical to this. And I had developed very specific products. Opti-mitochondrial force, Opti-mito increases the mitochondria. And Dr. Harris and I have been able to look up the research, since he reads research in 4 different languages. he has documented when you increase the mitochondria, you increase the telomere length. Some people say, well, why are you into stem cell or biological allografts now? We even made a product called OptiMagnaStem, where we can make more stem cells in the body. That's the whole idea, whether we're doing it by injection from biological allografts or the nutrition. Methyl B, OptiThyroid, OptiAdrenal, OptiNitric Oxide. You talk about nitric oxide. So I've taken whole food, organic, non-GMO food, and we've broken it down with plant enzymes to where it's at the smallest constituents. So what we're doing with the brain tap, what we're doing with the PMF, what we're doing with laser, what we're doing with craniosacral therapy, we're also doing with nutrition. And the key, and Dr. Porter is the epitome of this, where he talked about all these different things he put in brain tap, where there's auricular therapy, working on the eyes, working on the ears, working on the skin, working with light, working with sound. We also do that with nutrition. And it's so important that we work together as a team to get the common good and the outcome. So please contact the office. We'll get the videos, listen to the things that we do every week. We send out a free audio, free video, free written word of all these things going on out there. Clark, are you there with us?
Yeah, a couple questions that I'm reading here. Does the brain tap help with connective tissue, ideally helping it back to original form after surgery or injury?
Well, we have to be very careful on what we say it does or doesn't do, but we know we have a whole pre and post surgery series that they use at a couple different hospitals in America and over in India. We have a 100-bed hospital that's using it because they've noticed that when people are in parasympathetics, obviously we're going to accelerate that healing. So I would say that, yeah, when you introduce light to the body, it's going to help in all sorts of different ways. But I can't say specifically connective tissue. We'd have to have a study or something about that.
Well, we have some studies. Let me chime in here just a minute. There's a product developed by Doug Grant that we have at OHS. It's called Muscle RX, and they have proven that it increases the connective tissue. Also, the fruits and veggies have they're able to make 9 functional structure creams because we have the documentation. That's the right nutrition to go along with the other brain tap, the other things that we do to help the body to regenerate. We don't treat symptoms. We don't treat conditions that have people. We treat people that have conditions by improving function. The brain trap improves function, OptiMito, OptiThyroid, OptiIodine all improve the connective tissue through proper nutrition and increasing functional output. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Clark. Fire away with the next question.
There's a question here about marketing. There was a comment in Homecoming about some Facebook ads.
Yes, we have those. If you purchase the brain tap, just call our office at 302-721-6677, and they'll get you those specific ads. I mean, we have them on Facebook, but we can give them to you in a way that you can modify them and use them for your own office to drive traffic to you. We have some pretty good responding ads in Facebook that we'll give you. We also have other ads. So if you purchased, you can log into your back office. There's a business center back there, and we have all sorts of different marketing materials. But if you need help, please call us, reach out to us, and one of the staff will guide you through seeing all of that. We have in-house marketing, and as far as that goes, and also external marketing for you.
Can you repeat that number one more time, Doc?
It's 302-721-6677.
And the fun part about this whole thing is working as a team as we do. We posted a conversation between Dr. Porter and myself, and the audio that we did here just before homecoming. We had 10,000 people view that conversation. So join up with us. We have all kinds of things. Dr. Porter has things on Facebook where you just tap into it and you're going to learn things free of charge, and also pass it on to your patients so they come to you for this type of treatment, this type of nutrition, this type of brain tap care. It's really fun.
A question here about location license, the cost of location license.
Well, they really should call in for that too, because it depends on what you want to do with it. There's different licenses from as low as $1,500 to you can spend as much as $10,000 depending upon the size practice. We have one office in St. Louis that has 43 different stations, and he's doing about $2 million worth of business. So it just depends on where you're at and what you want to do with it, and we'll work with you on that.
And just so we're going to have to get Dr. Porter the exact date we have our next homecoming, but he's one of the featured speakers there, and we're giving more time and more space because of such a huge benefit we're seeing everybody that does this. So we'll let you know what time in January, early February, we're going to do it next year. We'll have Dr. Porter back and his beautiful wife, and they kind of spearhead a whole team there. Any others, Clark?
Last one here. How does this supplement neurofeedback?
Well, actually, we have a whole, when you do the free time on the app, you can see we have a whole, if you do neurofeedback now, which a good number of our doctors do, we have a whole section called neurofeedback. And what we do is, if let's say you have somebody who needs right brain training, we have right brain training. If you need left brain training, we have left brain training. Now, if you don't have a device that can show you that, we can show you how to accelerate neurofeedback training. But if you don't have that, it's not going to really do you any good. But we do have over 100 sessions that improve the care and the use of neurofeedback. So if you know the issue that you want to work on, if you want to create more balance in their brain, we have sessions for that. If you want to do more SMR, more theta, more delta, we have training tracks for each of those. So you would do your neurofeedback just like you would do. But we see that what results people typically would get in 40 sessions, which is a standard protocol for neurofeedback, or 20 sessions, we're getting in 5 to 6 sessions, and then they can accelerate from there. The whole thing is about neuroplasticity, and what we believe is that when you use the neurofeedback training, which I believe in, it's very good, you do that first, and then you do the brain tapping afterwards, because you stressed out the system. When you do the neurofeedback, you're really stressing out. It's more of a conscious training. But then when you take that conscious training and then you really exercise it at that alpha theta brainwave rhythm, where you let the brain do the work instead of the conscious mind, what happens is you start to see really accelerated results with neurofeedback. And that's really what I teach at Quantum University. That's why we have it as part of the whole curriculum at the university, is teaching people how to really transform neurofeedback, so the parents and the people who really need it start to see results faster. And they don't go through 40 sessions and wonder what they paid for. You can actually start to see and hear and experience those benefits very quickly with the brain tap.
Well, again, where this all fits together as a team is we teach craniosacral therapy, we teach fascia release, we teach organ reset. But with the new PMF treatment, where we're tying both a large pad and the pad specifically, whether it's on the brain or the organ, we're doing complete brain reset. And so any treatment that you do is going to magnify the results that you get, minimize the time that it takes to see major improvements. And that's why docs use them all together as we do. And we'll teach you those when you come to a seminar. And if you want to stop the aging process, you want to increase more stem cells in your body. If you increase more stem cells, you increase mitochondria. If you increase mitochondria and stem cells, you're increasing telomere length. That has been proven. Dr. Harris is the only one that can take you through all the quantum physics to allow that to happen. But we teach that every day. And there was a doctor at our seminar this weekend. Dr. Harper was here in Phoenix, and so we were doing a biological allograft, which is the injections that we can do by a push or into brown fat. If you don't know about brown fat, you're way behind. And so now we're injecting the biological allograft, which is a soup that makes your own stem cells, along with OptiMagnestem, and we're literally able to stop the aging process according to what the research is showing right now. So a guy was there who was 76 years old. He's a neurosurgeon, is retired from neurosurgery, but he wants to do this work. And Dr. Harper was shown cases where you could evaluate somebody, and you're not going to reverse the age where you go down to 12 again, but the functionality can literally take a 60 or 70-year-old and have where they function at a 50-year-old person. And many people can stop their aging process where they're at if you're willing to pay the price of using biological allografts that inject in form, as well as Magnestem, OptiBrain, because we have all the nutrients that repair and rebuild the neurons while you're retraining them with the brain tap, and also things such as PMF. I know we're out of time, but wow, this has been exciting. Dr. Porter just amazes me. He is polysyllabic. He can just flow with the words in the background and the knowledge that he has. We really appreciate you being here. This will be available to you very soon. He's going to Sweden. When he gets back, we're going to have him on again. We're going to try to do like one of his articles a month and try to get him back every couple of months to take the next level where he can educate us while we're preparing you for homecoming next year. Any parting thoughts,
Okay.
Dr. Porter?
No, I think you said it all. Just let us know, get the free book, start learning about it. If you want more information, just get a hold of Dr. John or us at BrainTap. We'll get you set up for free at first. You can evaluate it, start using it with your phone as an app, and then we'll help you to move along the way and start helping your patients. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here. Thanks, Clark, for helping to do this. And thank you, Dr. Porter. Our love and health and wealth goes out to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.